Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Beyond the Studio, brought to you by ARCHIDEX Fast Forward webinar series in conjunction with October 2020 World Architecture Month, and with me, Senwei, as MASA representative and also the moderator for today. I hope everyone is feeling great, doing well, and staying safe no matter which part of the world you're located at. Before we begin, I would like to thank ARCHIDEX 2020 for giving MASA an opportunity to conduct this session. It is our pleasure to have this collaboration with ARCHIDEX. For those who have no clue what MASA is, let me bring you through what MASA is and what does MASA do. The word MASA stands for Malaysia Architecture Students Alliance, and it is a non-profit student committee operating directly under Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia, or PAM, consisting of student representatives from all architecture institutes in Malaysia. It is a platform where Malaysian architecture students join forces to learn and share with appreciation of the past, generating sustainable living in the present, and bringing unlimited possibilities to the future. Our mission is to develop an effective platform and network between Malaysian architecture students and professionals. We also serve as liaisons between students and PAM. We represent the voices from architecture students, and this is what we are. So today, we present to you once again the chairman of PAM Education Committee, Architect Arjanta Aziz, and our special guest of the day, Mr. Kevin Lau, on his topic, Indoctrination. To begin with, let us welcome Architect Arjanta Aziz to say a few words. Hello. Good morning, Architect Arjanta. How are you?
Good morning. Not too bad, not too bad. How are you, Zenwei?
Yeah, I'm fine. Woke up very early today.
Well done. So how's your study? I heard that you have a
Thank you for
deadline.
joining us, Architect Arjanta Aziz, today.
Yeah, thank you. So how's your study, Zenwei? I heard that you have a deadlines to comply.
Everything is fine. We just started. We were going to start next week. Our semester. It's second year.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, good. I wish you all the best to you. Thank you so much for your introduction, Zenwei. Yeah, right. Ladies and gentlemen, students, selamat pagi, good morning, Chousan Kale Vanakkam. Such a beautiful Saturday. I wish all of you have a beautiful, smiling, and stress-free weekend adventure to do different activities. I hope you will fill your life with joy and fun. Have a wonderful Saturday. Right, today, we're going to come to the third session of our ARCHIDEX Fast Forward webinar series under education, brought to you by ARCHIDEX Online, jointly organized by PAM Education Committee, MASA, Malaysian Alliance, Malaysia Architecture Students Alliance, and also on behalf of Acacia Committee Architectural Education. And then, as you know, that this organization behind the scene here, all the MASA committee, especially for the students like Zenwei, I have a 3 series as I become an MC, and behind the scenes, thank you so much for all the committee. And then I really glad to see all of you back in this Saturday morning. Thank you so much to joining us this morning session to discover the topic of indoctrination and the hows and whys where students and many young architects are affected by it. So now let me speak briefly about our distinguished speaker today, my good friend here, Mr. Kevin Lau. He's raised up in Southeast Asia, and Kevin spent 9 years in the United States before returning to Malaysia with a bachelor and a master degree in architecture. His work concerned the design of the built environment, teaching and writing when time permits. So his educator's background with the architectural experience. So today, he is kind of a critical thinking for all the students. The topic about indoctrination is the process of fostering the uncritical acceptance of beliefs in a person or a group of people. It is the reason for the state of politics in Malaysia, the reason why a corrupt government was allowed to flourish for 60 years, how a compromise opposition won an election and why unelected government now rule. Indoctrination is also the reason students and young architects believe that websites the likes of ArchiDaily promote design and the creation of awareness when they merely distribute the equivalent of architectural pornography. Well, this lecture will discuss the what, how, and why of the indoctrination. So let's listen to our guest today, Mr. Kevin Matlow, as he shares his experience and advice. And I really, really hope it can be helpful to get you started and inspired with the new thoughts for your career. So students, viewers, just relax, gain a positive energy and enjoy his sharing. Well, if you have any question, please post it. Feel free to drop the question in the comment chat section on the screen, and we will do our best to answer them during the Q&A session at the end of the talk today. Right, without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Kevin Matlow. Hi, Kevin. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time.
No,
I think the last time I met you in last 2 years in Manila, yeah? we giving a talk together, represent Malaysia, and then I frequently met you in the morning and then invite you, and then you say, yeah, I'm glad to help to give this lecture, and thank you so much in advance on behalf of everybody here. Thank you for your time, Kevin. So without further ado, yeah?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Adrianta.
Let's begin this.
Yeah, I thought that that would be self-serving if I were to show any kind of slideshow on work done. It's crazy that the dominant paradigm of the world today, even in first world countries, treat lectures on education by way of showing off an architect's creativity, which tells you nothing about your own. So I thought instead of going down that dominant paradigm, we could talk about more interesting things having to do with your creativity. So this being mostly for students, can I first ask a question? How many of you out there have the experience of working very hard in a studio and your lecturer comes up to you and says, oh my God, you've got a fantastic project. You're going to get an A. Just make a few adjustments here. You're doing really well. And someone else comes along 10 minutes later or the next day, looks at exactly the same project and says, this is absolute rubbish. You're going to fail. You got to change this completely. And then you talk with different architects, and they all have a different angle on what architecture is, explaining why they use aluminum cladding and everyone has got their own point of view or opinion about what it's all about. Have any of you had this big problem with it? Because you don't know then who's right and who's wrong. So it's all about opinion. So sometimes you might do something, so you want to show what you've done to the people whom you think will support your opinion. So you try to avoid the lecturers that don't like your work, or you try to avoid architects whose work you don't like. And there's no real consensus because it's all about opinion. Yeah. So in the same way that at one time Mahathir was hated, and then he was loved because he started crying on TV and everyone voted him in. And now that he's hated again, it's all a matter of popularity, isn't it? Because opinion means nothing. Opinion doesn't deal with truth because it's just one thing. And opinion is subject to popularity. If there's enough if opinion is popular enough, then it becomes the truth. If it's not popular, it becomes a lie. And this is the problem with what we believe. And I want to just talk about it through an example here. Can you all see this? Let's not even talk about what it is, but I think you can identify it, yeah? Okay, right now, that's your opinion. That's your point of view. And my point of view is on the other side. Who's right and who's wrong? I mean, never mind someone looking at it from this side. That's their point of view. That's their opinion. Are they right? Are they more right than you and me? And we've forgotten the most important thing, yeah? We've forgotten the last most important point of view. And this is not normally even discussed. You see, the problem is, even as something as simple as a glass has so many different viewpoints, so many different opinions, you cannot just decide what it is from one opinion, from one viewpoint. You can't. You can only understand what a glass is when you look at it from all the different viewpoints, as many as possible, even the shape of it, and most importantly, within the context. In this case of the glass, it's the context of your hand. You're not going to hold it like this. It's going to drip out. And then finally, you understand what it ultimately is all about, what all the points of views, what all the opinions are all about when you actually start doing something to it which is intangible. Drinking is not necessarily tangible. We can only see it. It disappears after it's done. But a glass is a form. What it is used for is its content. If you argue only about what your opinion is, you're not understanding the truth. The truth is made up of so many viewpoints, so many opinions, and it's only when we start understanding every single opinion, every single viewpoint, and then understanding, more importantly, how all the different viewpoints or opinions relate to each other. This is a bottom in relation to the top. The top has sides which are slanted this way, which fits a hand pretty well. The bottom is angled and faceted so that you can hold it even better. It's only when you begin to understand, and then the final relationship, you can actually pour water into it and you can drink from it. It's only when you understand relationships between opinions and viewpoints that you begin to understand what truth is. Whenever someone makes a post on Facebook, it's usually an opinion. Usually, well, sometimes it can go even viral. Yeah. When architects present their work, they're not presenting truth. They're presenting their opinion about what they are doing. So, first and foremost, education, proper education, learning, is about understanding relationships, not just opinions and viewpoints. Someone who teaches you an opinion and makes you believe in an opinion, or maybe even two opinions, out of maybe a possible 20 in just a class, is trying to indoctrinate you. They're persuading you to believe something without any critical discourse about what relationships are. And this is one of the biggest problems in education right now. Globally, not just in Malaysia, globally, students are being indoctrinated. They are taught a bit about opinions and viewpoints rather than relationships. In any school you go to. So if you're a student then and your teachers come to you and they're looking at your project and they're telling you, you have got a beautiful project, you've got pinstripes. I think the color is fantastic. Another teacher comes over to you and says, oh, no, this is not good. You should do polka dots. Polka dots and pink. Blue and pinstripes is stupid. They are merely expressing their opinions. They're only talking about the form. And not only about the form, not the whole thing about the form, but only one viewpoint about that form.
Yeah.
Very few teachers talk about this because they're not even focusing on content. They are focusing on what things look like. So the indoctrination of an entire generation of architects, including most of you, because I teach in Malaysia too, so I kind of know this. I also teach in a number of different countries, is that education has regressed, has gone backwards to a point where we not only fail to understand that relationships are important, we also fail to understand that anything of truth is made up of multiple viewpoints, many opinions. And to understand that some opinions are not so important than other opinions, to understand that certain opinions can make or break the entire concept of an object or a thing is missing in our education. And that's why indoctrination has become such a dominant thing. It's very difficult to understand relationships. It's very easy to understand a viewpoint, an opinion. It can be uttered in a very quick sentence. It's a soundbite. And so when I was referring to architectural websites as being pornographic, it's because they focus on merely very few things without giving you a deep understanding of the relationships that those things are about. Yeah. Now, the reason why I started with politics in the summary of the talk today was because it demonstrates very clearly what indoctrination is. For 60 years, many citizens in Malaysia were indoctrinated to believe that if they look up to Barisan Nasional, it will take care of them. And in fact, it has miseducated many Malaysians in all the wrong ways. That the more privileges you give to any race of people, even the Chinese, Indians, and the Caucasians, the more privileges you give, the less they work, the less competitive they become. So a lot of these initiatives created by Malaysia in order to purportedly help the Malays are actually disadvantaging them. And this is why Barisan Nasional was in power for 60 years, based on a lie of indoctrination. Now, never mind Barisan Nasional. We criticized them. What happened when PKR came along? We took the very person that was responsible for a lot of that indoctrination for almost 25 years. And the opposition party made this person their leader. And the way you indoctrinate is very, very, very simple. There's some rules. You repeat yourself as many times as possible through a lot of media, social media, internet networks, newspapers, radio, TV. You put it out there. So you have a full old man grandfather crying on TV saying he's sorry for all the things he did wrong, never being specific about it, because you can't be specific when you're making an apology that's not truthful. And then people start to believe, oh, this man has changed. So everyone, all these Malaysians stupidly voted for this man, and PKR sold out the rakyat. And he became the new prime minister for, I think, the second or third time, whatever, at the age of 95, the oldest prime minister in the world, yeah? And then what happened after that? We stopped believing, we were indoctrinated, and we started thinking, oh my God, this person is not actually doing what he promised to do. And then a backdoor government came in at the right time because of COVID-19. So what politics is all about demonstrates the classic example of how even intelligent people can become indoctrinated. The Malaysians who voted for Mahathir, who voted for PKR, themselves were indoctrinated, even though they can criticize the other people, citizens who voted for BN for 60 years. They made the same mistake. Now, if you think this is only about politics, it isn't. The reason why I bring about politics is because we can all agree about who we hate. Politics is all about popularity. Mahathir is not popular now, out. New guy is popular now, Syed Siddiq, or whatever his name is. Oh, he's the next good thing. You see, indoctrination is also about making politicians our friends. We think they're our friend, and then later when they become leaders, we take favors from them. We do know better than what Barisan Nasional did for 60 bloody years. Now, this is not only about politics. It's the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it makes the example very clear. In everything that involves architecture, there's this exact same hypocrisy, this exact same repeated indoctrination over and over again in many years that make us believe we are learning when actually we are merely allowing ourselves to be indoctrinated. Because indoctrination doesn't happen only because you have someone who wants to influence your belief. It also happens because you allow them to make you believe what they want you to believe. And architecturally, it happens exactly the same as politics. They repeat the same thing many, many times. They make multiple posts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Because the more times they repeat, the more times you see them, the more you begin to go, oh my God, they're out there so often. They have to be telling the truth. And then you start believing these people who are not real teachers. They're merely what we call influencers. Now, we think influencing is bad. Why? Oh, Kim Kardashian, Kylie Jenner, they are the world's greatest influencers. They've got tens of millions of followers. Justin Bieber, oh, but you know, they're pop artists, and their kind of influencing is very shallow, yeah? You know what? All of these people, many architects themselves, not just young architects, very old, experienced architects as well, do exactly the same thing, except not with Kylie Jenner, not with Kim Kardashian, and not with Justin Bieber. It's with people that they post and repost from things that other people have posted. So, you know, we're potong tampaling what other people have potong tampal, cut and pasted throughout all of this time in order to show other people that we have seen a lot, we perceive a lot, and we know what is the truth, when all we're doing is influencing. So if you're really teaching about relationships, then you are involved in education. But if you merely teach your opinion, you're merely an influencer. And there are many, many influencers on the internet today. I only named Arc Daily, but look, Arc Daily, Dezeen, name them all. They're all pornographic because they only want you to have a superficial understanding of one viewpoint. Not even a good viewpoint. And they do not want you to understand relationships, because if you understand the relationships of the thing completely, you might not like it anymore. And that's why I call it architectural pornography, because it works this on the same principle as Playboy magazine. You know, Playboy magazine, 12 different months in a year, every month there's a new centerfold. They only want you to see an airbrush version of Miss July. Yeah, she's absolutely beautiful. She's so tall. She's got legs you've never seen before, breasts that are so unusual. But they do not want you to fall in love with Miss July, because if you do that, you won't buy Miss August. You won't buy their magazine the next month. You've already fallen in love with Miss July. And that's exactly what architecture wants you to do. It wants you to keep on falling in lust with a new project every so often, so that it can begin to popularize a brand, which is now, of course, used the word sustainability, whatever, yeah? It's all silly. It's all about the way something looks. And not only it looks totally, but only looks from one viewpoint. You never see the scar that Miss July had because she was attacked and raped when she was 16 years old, and she talks about, because that's not sanitized beauty. You do want to know the reality of a porn star, because if you knew the reality, you might begin to really develop a virtual relationship with her. And you're not supposed to develop a relationship with the things you just lust over, because if you did that, pornography will not sell. You just get hung up on one porn star, and then the industry will close. Architecture pornography works in exactly the same way. They want you to keep falling in love over and over again, to never really develop a complete relationship, understanding what the relationships all are, wondering what it can do, what it cannot do, what its failures, what its faults are, in order to sell you a brand, to indoctrinate you to understanding and believing what they want you to believe. So basically, that's what indoctrination is all about. I want to keep this very short so that we can have more questions. If you have more questions, I understand you can't ask it directly. You can ask Ardiata the question, and then he can ask me. But hopefully we can have a better conversation from your questions. And if disagreements, if you don't like what I've said, if you think that I'm talking rubbish, you can tell me so. If you want to know who the most respected architects are, you can ask that question too. This is a no holds barred lecture. I want you to ask everything, because I've met some of the most famous architects in the world. I've met some of the worst architects in the world, some of the most popular architects in the world, and I know all the inside in a way, so I can tell you what the Pritzker is all about, and what the WAF is about, and what architectural competitions, how commercial and sellout they are.
Right.
Because I have nothing to lose. I'm here more as an educator than I'm as an architect. I don't care how much I build, or Anyway, please.
Such a wake-up call, Kevin, when you're talking about an opinion itself, because opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance. Yeah. And again, coming back to the indoctrination, what are other words for indoctrination? For example, like this, what my understanding is about inculcation, persuasion, schooling, teaching, tuition, education, training, instruction, or even brainwashing. So this is this. I would agree, because the student facing this scenario, they went to the studio, they finish up their design process and so on, and they will come to see one lecturer opinions, and then they got confused with the other opinions, and coming back to their decision. So can you just give in an advice to them how to make a decision by hearing and accepting all those opinions?
Okay, it's a good question, Ardiata, and I think Janelle asked a very similar question, you see, because she goes, opinions are subjective, and if they're subjective, then how do we weed through what are good and bad opinions, right?
Correct, correct.
An opinion will only tell you about what something looks like. So this opinion, let's go back first. This opinion is a flat surface, because but it doesn't tell you it's supposed to sit on a table. It just says it's a flat surface, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. It's a flat surface and looks like an octagon. Okay? This is an opinion. It may be accurate, but it is not about knowledge. Another opinion is this one. Oh, it's a circle and there's a hole in it. Okay? These are very stupid, because they do not tell you that the flat surface is for it to sit on the table, and that the facets are for you, not in this opinion, but in this viewpoint, to hold better. This description of the hole with a circle is not a hole in a circle. It's a place where you put water. So you will begin to understand whether someone is brainwashing you or trying to indoctrinate you when they only talk about shapes. The circle is a beautiful thing. It's holistic. It is complete. It's beautiful. But no explanation of, it's not only a circle, it's a hole made by a container that's supposed to contain water or a beverage. It doesn't tell you, oh, flat is good. Why? Oh, flat is always very simple. Octagons are beautiful because they have different sides. This tells you nothing. It's only when you talk about the form in relation to an activity, a function, to describe the relationship that the form has with other parts of that form, and then ultimately the content. Does that answer your question, Adrianta, Janelle?
I hope so. I hope so, because I used to become, sorry?
It's not easy to understand. It's complicated because
It's complicated, yes.
have not
Because
in almost 50 years of architectural education. And I think only now are these questions by very few architects, by very few teachers, but only now is the tsunami coming, a greater awareness of what we've been doing wrong with architecture for decades. Yeah. So please go on. Another.
So, I mean, by saying that, Kevin, so this is what Janelle concern is it compliments aren't necessarily good?
There's a Sufi proverb. You know Sufism? It's a very important branch of Islam, actually. And there's a Sufi proverb which says this: if you want to destroy a man, praise him, compliment him. Now, this is very important. It's a very important proverb because my own version of it years ago when I was in Pakistan, I was lecturing and I said, nothing kills creativity or integrity quicker than success. And the day after that, I met with a lecturer of philosophy, and she told me that in Sufism, there's a very similar proverb. And the Sufi proverb says, if you want to destroy a man, praise him. And they say exactly the same thing, except that the Sufi proverb says it so much more vitally, so much more simply. Right. It's that you do not separate yourself from the praise you receive. When someone praises you, it means you're doing something right. And of course, as human beings, it is natural to want to feel good about what we've done. But we thrive, our adrenaline, our hormones on receiving praise. Every time you get praise, it's like a drug. You get addicted to it. And praise stops you from being self-critical. It stops you from examining all the faults in your own work. And if you cannot be self-critical, you are unable to produce critical work. And that's why praise, compliments can destroy, repeated compliments will destroy your abilities to think critically, to be able to do the best possible work you can ever do. Because you can only do your best possible work if you're constantly improving it. You can only constantly improve your work if you're constantly finding the faults in it. And you can only find faults in what you do when you are constantly being critical of what you do. We don't want to do that. We want to avoid the faults. We want to present our work as being perfect. This is a crazy paradigm we live under. Even in the first world, that's what we cut and pasted from. That's why we always present our own work as though it's perfect. In Singapore, I was presenting once many years ago, when I was a young architect, and I presented 2 mistakes I made. One was the roof that was made so shallow that when the storm and the winds were blowing, the rain was dripping in. So I had to pay for my mistake when I was doing this project. And I presented this mistake. And the person who was with me at the time, maybe this is not the right place to mention names, but he's a very famous stylist in Malaysia now. He told me, Kevin, how can you present this? It's not good for you to talk about your mistakes. And that's when I realized that this person was not a good person. And more importantly, that the world, the paradigm we live in, teaches us not to look at our mistakes, to hide our mistakes. Because if we don't hide our mistakes, people can say we are not good. And if we are not good, we cannot become famous, successful, and become influencers. And this is a wrong paradigm. Even at that time, I realized something was wrong. And it didn't stop me from still talking about my mistakes when I present my work. But this is an important thing because, really, even as a human being, I get sick and tired of people telling me they like what I do. I know what I do well. I'm sick and tired of hearing what I do well. I want to know what I do badly because I will only get better if I know what my mistakes are.
Correct.
That's why compliments are not necessarily good because they destroy your ability. They make you think you're doing okay. They make you stop critiquing yourself. Yeah,
correct, Kevin. Yeah.
Arjun.
That's why I went to Peshawar last 2 years, giving a talk, and then the Pakistani told me that the year before I came is your talk before, and then they were so impressed about your analogy and that. Is it in Peshawar, isn't it? Peshawar,
No, no,
Islamabad, Islamabad, if
no.
I'm not
It was actually in Lahore. No, sorry.
Lahore,
No, not
Peshawar.
Lahore. No. It was not Peshawar. It was in Sucker. Sucker
Okay.
is a tiny town in the Indus Valley, about 500 to 600 kilometers from
Yeah.
Karachi. And
Yeah,
to
they
get
told me that.
travel by car over 3 days, or you can take a plane. A propeller plane will take you there in about a few hours. And I wasn't even there for a lecture. I was there to look at a town well that someone asked me to design, a city well. And there happened to be a TED talk, a TEDx talk there, and they asked me if I could join them. So that's why I joined them. It was nothing.
Right. So Kevin, there's a question here. Now we having a few questions coming up now. Okay, this is from Shan Hong. Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Kevin, how we can examine or self-critique of our own work during the design process? Because what are the first questions that we should keep asking during the self-critique?
Okay, let's go back to the example of the glass. Yeah, the glass didn't look like this because we wanted it to look like this. It began because we have a need. What is that need? What is the content? The critical content is to receive water.
Right.
It is also to leave water without leaking.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
it is
for
for
that.
me to be able to hold, transport around, and to drink from. Without
Correct.
in all of our bodies. But very few projects begin with this. They begin with what it should look like. So you ask to design a school, we think of creativity because we believe that's what school is all about. So our school looks very creative. Many different colors, like a rainbow. Some are glass, some are purple, some are red. And then we got many things sticking out of it. The whole school looks creative. And we haven't even asked the question, what is a school? We asked to design an airport. And we are influenced, we're inspired by flying. Flying. The airport is about flying. So we design our airport to look like a bird. But an airport doesn't fly. Only the plane flies. We have not asked the question, what is an airport? We need to design a glass. We don't ask, what is a glass? We just immediately start drawing what we think a glass looks like. So the moment you focus on a form, if the moment you're inspired by something which already has a form, you have already damaged your critical thinking process. You have resorted to an opinion, a viral point of view that means nothing to the most important thing that the thing is about.
Yeah.
It's all about relationships. So if you can start by not focusing on understanding the relationships of a school, or understanding the relationships of an airport, or understanding the relationships of drinking, something as simple as containing water in a smaller vessel before you put that to your mouth, then you have lost the idea of what an important project is all about. Yeah. So it's so like an airport. What is an airport? Some people say it's about flying, so the airport looks like birds, you know. Some say it's about a forest, like Kishore Kurokawa. And the whole of KLA kind of looks like a forest, but not really, because you can't have a forest, you know. But they make all these columns, they make it forest-like, and then the roof is green. And then Mahathir doesn't like the green, and he changes it to stainless steel, and then your whole idea is gone, even though it wasn't even a good idea to begin with. But if we start asking what an airport is, we realize, my God, airport, for any of us who have flown, and before, you know, maybe 1 year ago, a lot of us were flying, an airport's not about flying, it's about walking, man. You take a grab car, or your parents drop you off at the airport. The moment you get out of the car, you're walking. The beginning is the worst. You're walking with one small bag, or maybe two small bags, and two big bloody bags, right, to check in. So walking with massive luggage, some without any wheels. So we need a bloody trolley, walking with a bloody trolley. We want to get rid of that stuff as quickly as possible. We need to go and check in. We check in. Oh, fine. My God, the line is 15 miles long. We are walking, waiting for half an hour. Finally, we get rid of the baggage. My God, we came too late. We don't have enough time. We got to rush to the bloody gate. And we take KLIA2. Actually, let's not call it KLIA2. LCCT number lousy. Yeah, you are running because it's like a marathon. It's designed so badly. It's like a mall with some airplanes stuck around. So your walking is ridiculous. It didn't understand it's about walking. So it made walking even more difficult. So you're late, and then you finally get there in a rush. You're sweating, and you're walking very fast, running in fact, because if you don't, you'll miss your flight. Yeah. Other people, they came early. They took a leisurely walk. They managed to check in their baggage. Thank God, that's also done. And now they got time. So they're walking leisurely. Some of you don't have time for a nap. How many airports have been designed so that you can sit in a chair comfortably as you can nap in it? That suddenly, if you wake up a bit late, you're in a hurry, you can get out of it very easily and be at your gate very quickly. But no, the best airport in the world hasn't been designed yet because no one has understood it's about walking, about reducing the amount of time it takes to walk from one place to another. But there's also another problem with that, because if you make the walking time as short as possible, then you've got a lot of automated transportation devices. And also, this is a whole other topic, but you will have to involve yourself in a lot more security, which results in a lot more maintenance fee. Because to reduce walking, you need more check-in points, more security points. To have more security points means you pay a lot more every day for the gross number of tonnage of passengers you're pushing through the airport. So it's very complicated. So when I say it's about walking, of course, it's not only about walking. It's about a relationship of the primary activity of walking with a lot of other activities, a lot of other viewpoints and opinions. So you need to understand that completely to really have an understanding of how your project starts and where it's going to have a good handle on it. Yeah. Sorry, many more questions.
Yeah, spot on. Okay. There's a next question from Amelia Mohsin. Yeah. For those of us who did not get the right education, Kevin, how do we go about it now? And then what can we do, or where do we start? Because we got literally nothing from the school.
Yeah, it's a very good question, actually, because I was once in the University of California in Berkeley, and a student asked exactly the same question right in front of his teachers, So even in the first world, there are a lot of shortfall. So don't feel disadvantaged just because you're in Malaysia. It happens around the world. Yeah, Amelia. And the problem is this, is that, or not the problem, but the good thing is this, that learning is a lifelong process. I'm 56 years old and I'm still learning things. And you can learn as much as you could in school or out of school by reading as much as you can and not rubbish on the internet. Read books. Read books. I can give you a reading list, and Adrianta can make it available to all of you. I can give you a reading list, and it's not only books about architecture. No. To become a really intelligent, to become a critically minded person, you have to read books about everything, about poverty, about why suffering is this, about politics, about why there is something called the special rights and privileges for the Malays, why the Ku Klux Klan in the United States existed, why Trump is actually the best thing that happened to the United States, but none of the Americans are realizing it. Why Hillary Clinton would have done even worse things if she had become the president. But we don't think about these things because we don't read enough about everything that begins to make our architecture better. Because the vital thing about life is that the greatest advancements in anything that you are doing usually come from outside of it, not within it itself. So you want to become a better architect, learn about life, not just about architecture. Of course, it doesn't mean that you should avoid architecture books, but do not read anything you read. Read about everything else that has nothing to do with architecture, and your architecture can only become better. Yeah.
Agree with that.
Adrianta, there's a question from Joyce.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me go one by one, Mike. Let me go one by one, Kevin. Because one of the students said he will love to have your list. So perhaps you can post it to me that I can share to the Facebook.
I'll send you a text, yeah, Adrianta?
Right. Okay. Hold on a minute. Okay, this is a question from the Joyce, my friend here. Question on ARCHIDEX Online. Okay. Don't you think websites like Archideli, Design are like advertisement where they are bring awareness rather than the whole truth?
Yeah.
Do you think so?
That's exactly what they are, Joyce, and that's not a good thing. Advertisement is about marketing. It's not about truth. And it's about the awareness of a product, of an opinion, not about the awareness of truth or relationships. Because a project, an architectural project, a brand of shampoo, a brand of toilet paper, it's not about how good it is, but how much of it they want to sell. So advertisements will never, ever speak about the truth of what something is. It'll never talk about relationships. It will only talk about about things that help them sell better. That's why websites like that, which behave like advertisements, are not good, and they do not bring awareness about the most important things, relationships. They only bring awareness about their own opinion. Yeah, but she had an earlier question before that. She goes, how do we learn about all opinions when a project is on the other side of the world?
Yeah.
It's an excellent question, Joyce. You can't. That's why architects who do projects all over the world globally are doing their worst work. Lou Kahn, who's Lou I. Kahn, who's America's most revered architect, did his worst projects in India, whether it's in Ahmedabad or whether it was in Chandigarh. His worst projects, and you will only know that if you can visit them. But actually, you can study these projects on the internet because they're very well documented. And if you can study them critically, you'll realize that those projects are awful. And because it's impossible to understand relationships when you're on another side of the planet, you're not close enough to the context, to the specific context, to understand its relationships. Never mind other side of the world. Look at something that's local in Malaysia. Yeah, there's a project in Bangsa called the Kebun Bangsa, and it took over a slice of land, which is a TNB reserve, with houses on either side of that narrow lot. You can only access it from the narrow sides, top and bottom. And all these neighbors did not ask for this Kebun. So many of them are being very, very marginalized by this activity of hobbyists. They are not a community, they are merely hobbyists. Because when you have got a cow and you've got cow dung, you've got flies, you've got a lot of things that are not regulated by the agricultural department, and neighbors will suffer because of that. And we complain about minorities of Chinese and Indians, and we don't complain about minorities of neighborhoods that suffer under the same projects that are supposed to be creative. This is hypocrisy, you see. Never mind local. Look at one of the most awarded projects in the world right now. It's the High Line in New York. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the High Line in New York.
Yep.
It's an elevated railway that has won multiple awards for the landscape architect involved, which was field operations under Jim Corner. Corner. I'm not sure it was Jim, and the architectural firm of Diller, Scofidio, and Renfro. Yeah, this project has increased property values in Chelsea as much as 20 times. That's 20 times. I can't even tell you that's 2,000%. Okay, such that all the original activities of Chelsea in New York that made it the most vibrant, the most interesting, the most profound neighborhood in New York is all gone, because no one can afford the mom and pop stores anymore, the affordable pizzerias, the gift stores, the record store, the secondhand record stores, gasoline alley. You can't bring your motorcycle there to get serviced anymore. All of them are gone, decimated, taken over by big brands like Google, buildings designed by Zaha Hadid and Bjarke Ingels, because this project created hype. It indoctrinated the rich who do not want to live there, but only want to buy property there so they can resell it for greater value. And they forced out all the original community of the neighborhood of Chelsea. The people who only lived there because it was affordable, it was lively, it had a lot of things happening. There was diversity there. Now there's no more diversity. Even the expensive art galleries are gone, because the only art galleries can afford to go there are the ones selling work by artists like Damien Hirst and Ai Weiwei. It's a ridiculous paradise for the rich, propagated by architects and landscape architects who are themselves rich and privileged.
Right.
Without thinking about the specific context of Chelsea on either side of the High Line.
Yes. Is it the one, the High Line by the 18th Street? Is a promenade planty, isn't it? You're talking about.
It was promenade planty, which is a project that was done in Paris. They cut and paste, except that the one in Paris took into account, it happened because of the people living on either side of the promenade. They were art galleries, they were furniture shops. All this vibrant neighborhood were already overcrowded. They were overflowing. So the promenade planté in a major part was done to accommodate them. Not so for the High Line in New York. They were done for outsiders. They were done for global tourism. They were done to create buzz and hype and fuzzy love. The same way a lot of projects in Malaysia do that. Whether it's bicycle sharing, whether it's the blue bicycle bloody lanes, whether it's kabuns everywhere now, whether it's what's the other one? Sorry. Now what's that company that was giving money away for free? It was a Think City. It no longer exists. It stopped existing because it was doing absolute rubbish. And all that money was given away, millions given away in order to build their brand, have resulted in projects that mean nothing to the communities that they were stuck into. This is
Kevin,
Sorry, go on.
You see, by the end, because General said, by the end, money runs the world now. Yeah, the marketing wins people's heart and funds comes in. So to be righteous and truthful, how can we ever hope to overcome the hurdles now?
You see, the hurdle happens is because we're all hypocrites. We all say money is not important. You know, we get up on the stage, oh, money is not important to me. You know, I care about people. I don't do it for the money. And yet, when we get involved with our own work, it's all about the brand, all about the recognition, all about the fame, and all about the money. This is the most important hurdle. Don't try, Janelle, don't try to change the world. You cannot change the world. But there's one thing in the world that you can absolutely change. It's yourself. The only thing that we can change in the world is ourselves. So don't worry about changing the government a million times. You can change the government a million times, but if the rakyat stays the same, nothing changes. But if you just change yourself and how you think and how you do and who you don't even follow anyone. I was going to say who you follow, you know. This is ridiculous. We all talk that leadership is so important. We all talk, don't be a follower, be a doer. And then what do? We go to Facebook and then we click follow. You know, it's so brain dead. Facebook even calls it follower, and then you are one. Yeah, I mean, this is how ridiculous and hypocritical it is. We don't follow on Facebook, but in life with other people, oh no, don't follow. It's so stupid, isn't it? That they will call you a follower, and then we just call ourselves followers too. Yeah, so don't follow because you do not know if you can lead till you choose not to follow. But whatever you choose to decide to learn from as a teacher, not an influencer, make sure you challenge them to. Ask them questions. Influencers, you don't have to ask. You know that one day they will have at least 8 different posts. Anyone who has even more than 1 post a month is not a teacher. They're ridiculous, okay? So be careful. Be careful of shamans, of witch doctors, of people who are only influenced but pretend, who are only influencers but pretend that they're teachers. They are not educating you. They're only making you indoctrinated. They're only indoctrinating you to become stupid like them.
Yeah.
Because that's
okay. Next,
you know. Sorry, go on.
Next question from Chai Paul Lee. Yeah. So, Mr. Kevin, what is your opinion on schools talking about concepts versus content? Because school often talk about concept rather than content. So the student need your opinion about this.
Okay. Well, firstly, I'd like to say that I do not give my opinion. I don't care about my opinion. Remember? Oh, sorry, I spoke to myself. I don't care about my opinion. Because if I talk only about my opinion, I will not be teaching properly. So I'd rather turn the question around to what is my understanding of the relationships that of concepts and content in schools. What most teachers are referring to when they talk about concepts is not about content. They're only talking about formal concepts, which is about how it looks. So when they say they want to hear a concept from you, they want to hear, oh, my airport is about flight, and so I pick a bird as my inspiration. And then the airport looks like a bird. That's what they're looking for. Of course, maybe a bird is not such a good concept. So they will think of something else, but it's still about form, how it looks. It's very stupid. Some concepts for an airport, which they think are better, will be, oh, the airport is a gateway, a portal to the city. Wow, sounds very good, right? Actually, that's not what it's about for the people struggling to get to board their flight. Who gives a shit about a gateway? Yeah. And if it's a gateway, how come when you arrive in a new airport, you always come out in the worst part, where there are all the taxis, the pollution? Only when you leave the country, then you see the nice ceiling and the light. Yeah, why is it like that? If it's supposed to be a gateway, I can tell you the answer later, but that's the whole problem, you see. With most teachers, I must say almost 96% of teachers, when they talk about wanting to hear a concept from you, they're not talking about a concept. They just want to hear about the form that you are inspired by. That's not a concept. Yeah, a real concept is about content, which is about water in this case? How do you deliver water, contain it long enough for you to drink? That is a true concept that is derived from content. Critical content is about the act of drinking. But that content alone has to have a concept around it in order for you to accomplish the content. That is the concept. The form is only what you develop from the concept after you have the content, the critical content. But most architects, most stylists, most architects, most influencers are only interested in giving you the glass and showing you how good they are to find the glass, and not encouraging you to rethink what drinking water is about, which is critical content. Does this make sense? I hope that answers.
This one response, Kevin, from Mr. Yusuf Zainal Abidin. He's talking about it's not about school, it's about how good the tutor in the school actually. It will reflects to the tutor.
Yeah, it's true in a way, but there's some schools that have a greater sense of foundation. No school of this exists in Malaysia. I used to think it was University Malaya, and I was sadly disappointed this semester. What they've done at University Malaya is shocking. There was a studio that Naziati is teaching, and she's been kicked out of the studio and sent to the second year. I know because I was helping her with the studio. Yeah, but no school. There are some schools in the world, the best schools in the world, will have a solid foundation that the teachers all draw the energy from. Do you remember the movie Avatar?
Yeah.
And the supposedly good people, all the Na'vi, those blue people with carbon fiber bone structures and all that. Whenever they lose their way, they take out their tails and they plug it into their Mother Earth. So a good school is like that. The best schools are like that. They provide the good foundations for teachers to become re-energized, to learn more from. The worst schools do not teach anything.
Right.
Worst schools don't teach anything. They just allow teachers to do whatever the hell they want. Unfortunately, that's become a global paradigm.
So I would like to echo this matters from Victor Wolf. I'm not sure he's local or from overseas now. Should the school...
Victor's from Kuching.
From Kuching. Yeah, okay. Should school be driven by value or philosophy than relying on a concept? Would the concept better be viewed as a simplified version of the whole design and the process?
Unfortunately, we got to go a bit further back even, Schools, most universities are not driven by integrity or deeper sense of responsibility. They're driven by their board of directors who only want to maximize how much profit the school makes, the university makes every year. That's what education has become, even for public schools. And I can say this about University Malaya as well. Yeah. And because this is a result of education from the moment we go into kindergarten. From the moment we go into kindergarten, we are taught that if we do better in school, we become successful. And success is always defined by, once again, money, you see. So it's always about fame, money, and in order to achieve that, you need reputation. So what schools do is it educates you to serve your reputation before you serve your responsibility. This is the problem with universities, most universities around the world. There are very, very, very few universities that prioritize responsibility more than reputation.
Right.
A university will want to protect its reputation as much as possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if I get a lawyer's letter after this, They do not want their reputation to be bad mouth or sullied, even though you have proof as to what's going on.
Right.
And this problem with education is that most schools, especially the private schools, are only interested in squeezing your parents as students, your parents from as much money as possible without giving you as much of an education as they can. And so the teachers are left to take up the slack. And most teachers, I'm so sorry, are unqualified. Many teachers, not most, but many teachers are there because they did not succeed in the private sector. Okay? The ones that want to be teachers sometimes were merely approached before they even graduated from Oxford Brookes by a dean of some school and who corralled them to start teaching without any proper qualifications or evaluation of their abilities. There are very, very few teachers out there who already start teaching with PhDs. So if you're looking for a very well-rounded education, it is probably in Unfortunately, the United States, because more than anything else, I've experienced more teachers there who care about responsibility before their reputation than in other places in the world. It is rare to find. There are a couple of teachers in Singapore whom I respect tremendously. Several teachers in Singapore, several teachers in Indonesia, a couple in Philippines, some in India, but they are the minority. They are the alternative. They are the voices of resistance rather than the main paradigm. And this is what's sad. It's what's very, very discouraging. Yeah.
Right. There's a one question asking your view here.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Okay.
In your opinion, does that mean the Praskas Prize is also a kind of a indoctrination of the right architecture humankind should pursue in the grand scheme?
Well,
because the answer is very subjective here.
Well, you tell me. Well, you tell me. When was the first woman ever awarded a Pritzker?
Yeah.
It was not Denise Scott Brown, okay? It was Zaha Hadid, arguably the worst architect in the world, who only served her reputation, never served her responsibility. And she even won a gold medal from the RIBA a year before she died. Yeah. And then and before that, she won the Pritzker. Now you tell me, if someone had to win a Pritzker, a female had to win a Pritzker, right?
Right.
How many other women architects deserve that award before Zaha Hadid? And then when someone from Asia had to win the Pritzker, it had to be someone from China. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And after China, then maybe we go back to Europe. And after that, it's got to come back to Asia again. Who's won?
Right.
Who's won the, yeah? So you see, the Pritzker itself is a very political machine. And I know because I've had some anyway experience.
What's that? Experience with those.
I've taught at the IE in Madrid, and I know the executive director of the Pritzker, and we've had some conversations, and it's a huge fight for people who really want to do the right thing, because there are many individuals, some of them white entitled American males, who will insist on what their opinions are at the expense of greater integrity. Yeah, and it's a big problem. Yeah, so the Pritzker itself is very compromised, you know?
Right.
It's a whole other lecture. If you wanted to talk more about it, I can't even get into any detail here. But there isn't a single award in the world right now which is worth its value, because it's all governed by politics, by policies, It's very difficult. Oh, someone asked a question about bylaws. Can bylaws?
Yes. I just want to ask you that from Joyce. Such a
not all bylaws.
question.
Yeah, not all bylaws are bad. Bylaws are only there because, look, if you've got a lot of people, a whole rakyat, not everyone is intelligent. You cannot make everyone behave like they're intelligent. It's not fair. So bylaws are there so that we generally have some guidelines that everyone can follow. Okay, so they're not bad, but there are many bylaws which border on indoctrination. Many bylaws are not good. They are only there because it is the mainstream and everyone should follow them. But you can change a bylaw if you've got good enough reasons. I've designed a building in Malaysia that has, in Singapore as well, actually it started in Singapore, right? That has even more stringent bylaws than Malaysia. And one of the bylaws, architectural bylaws, says you cannot have a bedroom that does not have a window directly to the outside. All bedrooms must be naturally ventilated, must have a window.
Right.
In Singapore is I put a bathroom between the bedroom and the outside. So by right, the bedroom has no window. And when the authorities said, look, this bedroom has no window, basically I explained, look, a toilet that is put between a bedroom and the outside is nothing more than a window that is made thicker. And there's a space inside. Both sides can be open and closed. There's a space inside that's used as a toilet. And you cannot shower or take a shit at the same time you sleep. And you cannot sleep at the same time you take a shower or a shit or a pee. So you can only use the bathroom or the bedroom at only one time. So if you're using the bathroom, you have got a window right there next to you. You just open it. If you're sleeping, you open all the openings in the bathroom, and it becomes a window. And that. So this is an example where you can change the bylaw if you have a good reason, not because you went to the Ketua Jabatan and then you got a favor which superseded the junior members of DBKL to get your cow allowed to be reared inside a kabun. This is not a good changing of the law. It's about corruption, where you get a superior to undermine the authority of a junior in order to get your way. This is what's happening in Malaysia. It happens at the most senior levels of government. It happens at our creative level too. Okay?
Right.
So don't be fooled by when someone says, if the law is not good, you can break the law. Hey, you only break the law if you've got very, very good reasons for it. Not because you went to a Ketua Jabatan to supersede the ruling of a junior member. So all this thing about the windows was all done at the junior level. No going to some senior member of the authorities, yeah? But this is what's wrong with Malaysia. Our creatives are doing the same rubbish as the politicians are. Yeah.
Kevin, that's an interesting question from Emilia now. Again,
Yes.
yeah? Okay. Since we are bombarded with architecture pornography now, especially in school where teachers simply share project links without understanding or discussing them with the students, most of us face with the trouble of knowing what is the right and what is the wrong. So even worse, most teachers say there is nothing that is truly right or truly wrong. So how, students, how do we even begin to understand what is right and wrong on our own? So sometimes it gets confusing as you talk to people in the industry now. Can you respond that?
The reason why teachers, not teachers, the people who believe they're teachers, who are in the university, teaching, educating students, the reason why architects tell you there's no such thing as right and wrong is because they do not want you to question their opinion, their viral viewpoint. They want you to see only this. Because if you understood the relationships, you can tell them, hey, you're not teaching me the right thing only. You're teaching me your viral opinion when actually I want to understand relationships. That's the reason why people who are older than you will tell you there's no such thing as right and wrong. They are talking rubbish. They only want to indoctrinate you. That's why they say there's no right and wrong. There is a right and wrong, not a right and wrong between one viewpoint and another viewpoint. That's stupid. Is this right and is this wrong? It's nothing about right or wrong. This is stupid, right? So this opinion is not anymore right or wrong than this opinion. They're only opinions. But you can be right or wrong when you say you are talking about an opinion. I am talking about relationships.
Yep.
So you can be right when you're talking about relationships. You are wrong as long as you're only talking about opinions or viewpoints.
Correct. So don't let others convince you that the idea is good when you gut tells you it's bad,
They're only talking about a viewpoint, you see? And that's why these people who are influencers, who are older than you, say what they say, because they do not want you to question them. They do not want you to discover the amazing world of relationships.
Exactly.
Where you begin to grade and prioritize viewpoints. It's almost like the Matrix, You guys seen the Matrix? You remember that one fantastic scene at the end when Neon gets shot and he's dying, right? And then what's her name gives him a kiss, and of course he gets come back to life, right? And then he stands up. He's not seeing Agent Smith anymore. He's not seeing walls. He's not seeing doors. Everything he sees is the codes. Yeah, you see the green letters of the Matrix coded. Everything is coded. And when he sees the coding, he can adjust it. He can do anything. The bullets are fired. He can stop the bullet there because it's not a bullet. It's not an opinion. It's not a viral viewpoint. It's only a code. Because he can understand the relationship of the bullet, which is a code, with all the other codes. He can control his entire environment. That is what understanding relationships can do for you. No longer do you need to see Agent Smith or some ridiculous teacher in your school who's only teaching you their opinion. You're not seeing Agent Smith, you're not seeing bullets, you're not seeing walls, doors, or floors anymore. You have broken out of the Matrix. You are seeing the code of relationships. They do not want you to see that because they've never seen it themselves. They don't want you to see that because if you can see that, you cannot die when they shoot their bullet into you. That's why famous architects, famous influencers, influential teachers do not want you to understand the matrix. They do not want you to understand the amazing world of relationships. Because if you do that, you will not care about their opinion anymore.
Right.
It's making
Okay,
sense?
maybe, yeah, makes sense. I think I love your analogy talking about metrics, and I hope the students can understand. I will go for the last question here, Kevin.
Cool.
All right, this is from Kevin Carnage. Yeah. How do we how do we practice architecture not driven by forms that look good when we are designing for clients who are developers or private clients who predominantly want to show off or market their product?
Okay.
That's a good question.
This is an excellent question. Firstly, Kevin, I'm not suggesting that you live the life of no compromise. That's a decision I made for myself. You do not need to make that same decision for yourself. The important thing is whatever decision you make, that you're honest about it. That's all. And not be a hypocrite. If you made a decision to work for developers and to do things which you do not believe in, just because you need to make money, because you have married, you have a family, you have children, you want to give a better life to, don't make excuse for that. Do it. Compromise. Sell out. It's okay. As long as you don't lie and pretend you're doing design, because you're not. If you want to do design and you want to sacrifice and you don't get married, you don't have children, maybe because you can't, I don't know, or you decide, you did not make that decision because you wanted to do design your whole life, don't complain about being poor. Don't complain that, oh, I wish I had a family. Don't complain about all the other benefits that come with whatever choice you make. The problem with our world is this. Most people compromise. They do work for developers because they want to be rich, and they still call themselves designers and critical architects. That's rubbish. That's wrong. Because it does not set a good example to the young architects, to the students who have just graduated, that they can do the same thing and lie and still lead a famous and successful life, serving their reputation when they've completely neglected their responsibility. Right. It doesn't make sense. But if you want to find that balance, you'll constantly be fighting for it. Because balance is something that's not really spoken about enough. You see, we believe that when we find our balance, everything is wonderful. No, it's not. When you are fighting your balance, when you are finding your balance, it is actually the most difficult thing in your life. Because balance only happens when, or a good life is only happening when you are still on the tightrope, walking the tightrope. You are always struggling to stay on the tightrope. The moment you've fallen off the tightrope, you are dead on the ground, or you've forgotten and you've given up the tightrope. You don't know how to walk the tightrope anymore. You're walking on the sidewalk, very safe. But a life worth living is when you're always on the tightrope. You're neither dead, neither are you behaving like you're dead, just walking the sidewalk safely. You are always on the tightrope. And as long as you're on the tightrope, you are always struggling for balance. You're always fighting. It is never comfortable. You're always in danger of falling off. But you know what? You're living a very exciting life. And if you want to live that kind of a life of balance, of always fighting and struggling, then you've got to be on that tightrope. And that tightrope leads you in only one direction. It is about being self-critical. It's about knowing when you're lying to yourself before you know you're lying to others. It's about being very honest about what you do. And if you tell a developer that you cannot take that job, you cannot call back and say, I changed my mind. That the most difficult in the world thing to do in the world as an architect is the ability to learn how to say no. To say, I can't do that job because if I build what you want me to build next to that 2-story bungalow down there in which lives a family of 5 Malay friends of mine, I would not want to be part of that family. I would hate the person who did that. And I would hate the architect. I would not want to put that project there because it would inconvenience someone living next to it. If you can say that, if you can look honestly enough and say, no, I cannot do that, then you're living that life of the tightrope. And I encourage all of you to look at that option, not because you should live that option, but only because most of you never knew that option was available to you. That school teaches you only 2 options. You die on the sidewalk or you walk on the sidewalk rich and pretend that you're on the tightrope. This is what school teaches you to do, to believe you're doing. This is wrong. And that's the only reason why I suggest that the tightrope is another option, because you can still be up there with the wind blowing all around you. And let me tell you, the view from up there is amazing. It's a wonderful thing because you're teaching. and you're learning.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful, Kevin.
An option. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very
Yes,
much
yes.
for having
Yeah,
me
I
here.
mean, yeah, I mean, let's go back the fundamental, the definition about the education itself and indoctrination, because this is what I believe. Education is only the act of acquiring and a specific knowledge to develop the reasoning and judgment. But when talking about indoctrination, is about teaching, doctrine, or inculcate an idea or point of view, or even can describe as propaganda.
Just an opinion. That's right. It's brainwashing.
Yes.
Indoctrination,
Yes, exactly.
and brainwashing all occupy the same realm.
Exactly.
So take care, all of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you so much for your time, for your thought. It's kind of a critical thinking for all the students who viewers here. For me, a simple idea can inspire, motivate, and produce change. So I wish you all the best. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. I hope I can keep in touch with you back. You please take care of yourself. Be safe. Be healthy. And for all the students, there you are. Give a round of applause to Kevin Maklo. I hope that everybody loved this.
My honor to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
So with that, I think this is a third session will end. So thank you so much for the thoughts, Kevin, and thank you to all of you viewers spending time this Saturday morning. Now it's noon already. So I shall see you again next Monday, if I'm not mistaken. So I leave the floor to our MC, Zanwei. The floor is yours now. Thank you. Over to you now.
Hello. Thank you, Architect Adrianta, and thank you, Mr. Kevin, for that. I just don't know how to express. Very interesting, very eye-opening, and something that we are not exposed to before, to be honest. Yeah, and also the advice you have for all the young generations and young architects and especially students. So, okay, our session today has come to an end. Thank you everyone for joining us on today's online sharing session. Thank you so much to our special guest, Mr. Kevin, for sharing his ideas and thoughts with us. It is our pleasure to have him here, and we hope everyone enjoyed it. Also, a very big thank you to the best moderator, Architect Adrianta. And last but not least, I would like to thank Pam and ARCHIDEX for giving us the opportunity to have this collaboration in ARCHIDEX Online 2020. Stay tuned for the next webinar on the 20th of October, 3 p.m. as we will be having Architect Razin Mahmood with his topic, Blurring Boundaries. Trust me, it will be a very interesting session and we hope to see you all there. Do keep in touch and follow us on MASA's Instagram and Facebook for more updates. And do check out ARCHIDEX Online for more interesting webinar sessions. On behalf of MASA, I hope everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Be safe, everybody. Bye.